Hello my small YouTube audience, this is Caleb Girl here. I've been struggling to get this video out, but today we're talking from the gathering chain drive to the end of into here. Alright. The gathering drive, chain drive, so I'll let the camera focus that. And I'm filming this on my phone. Alright, right there's the gathering chain drive sprocket and the tightener sprocket. The gathering chain speed should closely approximate the ground travel speed of the combine. The corn attachment is regularly equipped with a 14-tooth gathering chain drive sprocket, which is recommended for use when traveling at approximately 3 miles per hour. A 12-tooth sprocket and a 16-tooth sprocket are available as special equipment. If a slower combine speed is desired decrease the gathering chain speed by installing a 12-tooth drive sprocket, which I'll point to that serial number if any of you need that. In down corn conditions, it is recommended to use that the 12-tooth drive sprocket be installed and the combine speed be reduced. If a faster combine speed is desired, increase the gathering chain drive speed by installing the 16-tooth drive sprocket. I'll point to that serial number. To change the drive sprocket, disconnect the drive chains. Remove the attaching bolt and washer from the drive shaft. Remove the sprocket and install the new gathering chain drive sprocket. Now the down corn attachment. And I'll zoom in on that serial number. That's the serial number you need. I'm even right there for a second so you can see it. Is N16183. A down corn attachment, a special equipment right here, can be installed to prevent down corn stalks from wrapping around and lodging on the outer gatherers. It would also help to stop the plugging by directing the flow into the gatherers in a much smoother fashion. Now the stock rolls. The stock rolls pull the corn stalks down so the ears will be snapped on the deck plates. Important notice: proper adjustment of the stock rolls and deck plates is necessary to obtain maximum performance. For the corn attachment to hold field losses to a minimum, deck plates adjustments is explained on pages 9 and 10, which we'll get to that later on in this series. Adjusting lever. The outer one is for stock roll adjusting, and the outer one is for stock roll adjusting, and the inner one is for the deck plates. The operator can change stock roll spacing on the operator's platform with the stock roll adjusting lever. The outside lever controls the spacing of both row units simultaneously. Push the lever forward to open rows, pull it rearward to close the rows, which this never makes sense to me. The rearward part, they just could have said backward. The stock roll spacing can be changed while the machine is in operation. The stock rolls should be open far enough so the ears are normally snapped off after they traveled at least halfway up the deck plates. Stock roll spacing. But I'll let you see that for a minute if you need that as a reference image if you have this particular piece of equipment. It is very important for the spacing of the stock rolls of all the stock rolls be the same, with the adjusting lever at the rear of the quadrant. The rolls should be spaced so there's a space of 1 3/8 of an inch to 1.5 inches between the bearing box flanges at the front of the stock rolls. The distance between the stock roll point tips should be between 3 5/8 to 3 3/4 inches. The distance between the bearing box flanges is more or less than 1 3/8 to 1.5 inches required. The stock roll linkage must be adjusted. To adjust, remove the pin that holds the clevis to the lever arm, which I'll let you have that as an image to refer back to so you can rewind the video and take a look. The stock roll adjusting rod, lengthen or shorten the rod as required. Lengthen the rod and clevis assembly to increase the distance between the stock rolls. Shorten the assembly to decrease the distance. After adjusting, connect the clevis back to the lever arm on both sides of the attachment. Pull the lever to the rear of the quadrant. Measure the space between the stock roll bearing brackets. Make sure spacing is correct. Timing the stock rolls. If the stock rolls are not in time, flutes may break out the stalks. The flutes may break out the stalks when timed properly. The flutes on the stock rolls will run smoothly and there is no clashing when the rolls are turned. As you see, this is the shear flute, and deep down in there are the stock rolls. The shear flutes on the stock rolls are designed to cut off any stalks that may reach the upper end of the stock rolls. Stock roll flutes and a shear flute. So it's kind of like the Calmer chopping roll before it's even around. The shear flute must be positioned so it is directly opposite a stock roll flute as shown above. If not, flutes must be timed as follows. To time the shear flutes on the stock rolls, remove 2 nuts from the rear end of either roll, preferably the roll without the drive sprocket. Move the bearing bolt at the front of the same roll. Pull the free roll down until the gears are out of mesh. Turn the roll until the shear flute is directly opposite of one of each of the stock roll flutes as illustrated above. Or else I'll go refer back to that image right there for a minute. The rear stock roll nuts right there. I'll have that as an example to see. And it should look the same on the other side of the equipment. Now those are the stock roll flute bolts and the stock roll bearing bolts. And the rolls are timed properly. Slide the roll back into place. Replace the front stock roll bearing bolt and nut and the 2 nuts, lock washer at the rear of the stock rolls. Tighten the nuts and bolts securely. Stock roll bolts. Periodically check the nuts on the bolts through the stock roll bearing assembly located at the front of the stock rolls. These nuts should be tight at all times. If the bolts are not tight, tighten to a maximum of 80 foot-pounds of torque. At the same time, check the nuts holding the stock roll flutes in place. They must be tight at all times. Tighten these bolts to a maximum of 80 foot-pounds of torque. It's important to use only half an inch to 2 1/4 inch high-strength bolts to hold the flutes onto the rolls. The duct plates are snap ears from the stalks are pulled down by the the snap ears. The deck plate snap ears from the stalks. Sorry for my stumbling. As the stalks are pulled down by the stalk rolls, the deck plate spacing can be adjusted to meet varying crop conditions by moving the inside lever accessible from the combine's operating platform, only if you're in a cab